don't feel sorry for me. Feel sorry for that little town back there. It'll be years before they get over this. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are celebrating the legacy of one of my favorite horror films of all time. And I am talking about Halloween 2 from 1981. That's right, I said Halloween 2. And yes, it is one of my favorite horror films of all time. Of course, next to the original classic from 1978, Halloween, directed by John Carpenter. And Halloween 2, I feel, is the greatest horror sequel of all time. The reason I made this video is I've noticed some people talk negatively about Halloween 2, and I really just don't get it. So for me, I feel that Halloween 2 should be absolutely cherished. I feel like it should be worshipped, and, because I worship Halloween 2. And there's just so many great things about this film, and I want to talk about that. Because here on my channel, The Horror Corner, we love Halloween 2, and we celebrate it, we honor it, we cherish it. Why? Because I think it's an absolutely phenomenal film. And I feel like Halloween 2 is a classic in its own right. I don't care what the makers of Halloween 2018 say. They want to make it not canon anymore. I don't care. I don't care even what John Carpenter says, that, we all heard the story about, he had a six-pack of beer, and that's why he came up with the brother and sister angle, the fact that Michael Myers is Laurie's brother, I don't care about all that, because to me, at the end of the day, the results that we got for the film Halloween 2 are absolutely phenomenal and fantastic. It's got a lot of the same look and feel and atmosphere of the original classic, and none of the other sequels can say that. And yeah, and that fact alone should be reason enough to celebrate this film, that they were able to pull that off, despite having a different director. And thankfully they had Dean Cundey, who worked on the cinematography on the original film, and that carries over beautifully. And I think that's a huge reason why this film works so well. And yes, it does hold up extremely well, and has over the years, I feel it just holds up, and the film looks just beautiful, today, feels like it could have been made today. Outside maybe some of the hairstyles that people have, And I also feel that this film separates itself from the original film in all the right ways. It adds something different to the story. It has a lot of different things that separate it from the original, but at the same time is very honorable to the original, pays homage to the original, and of course it follows the events of the original very well, in my opinion. And of course you've got a lot of the same core members of the cast returning, and they are all phenomenal in this movie as well. I think Dr. Loomis is probably even better in Halloween 2 than he is in the original, and that's saying a lot. I know it is. And I also know it's saying a lot that I consider this the greatest horror sequel. Yeah, to me this is like the Godfather 2 of horror sequels, It's like the Terminator 2 Judgment Day of horror sequels. It's like, yeah, you name it. Yeah, I just cherish this movie, and that's what we're here to do. We're here to celebrate why I love Halloween 2, and why I think it's such an amazing film, why I think it is a horror classic in its own right. And I'm going to just talk about some of the things I love about it, and why I think it's the best sequel easily by like light years from the rest of the Halloween franchise. Now, I enjoy the other sequels. I even enjoy 3. I enjoy 4, 5, and 6, and all that, and H2O, you know, and of course the 2018 film. I enjoy that. But to me, at the end of the day, they're just, you know, either solid or, you know, fun, you know, but they're not Halloween 2, which is an excellent follow-up, an excellent direct sequel to the original film. And to me, none of the others capture that quite as well. And one point being, Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis is just absolutely phenomenal in this film. Yeah, some of his best lines, some of his best acting, some of his best dialogue, and he's just amazing in this movie. And second being Jamie Lee Curtis. I know a lot of people have a problem with, you know, the fact that she's comatose through a lot of the film. She's heavily medicated, you know. But to me, that makes perfect sense, and the way she played the character is perfect to the way the events played out, you know. She's been through incredible trauma through the original film, you know. She got beat up and bruised, she fell down the stairs, she got stabbed, you know. She got strangled, so of course she's going to be messed up. Of course she's going to need some medication to calm down. You know, and of course they had to put her out, because she's so, you know, disheveled, so, you know, shocked and in terror and scared to death, you know. To me, it all makes perfect sense. And she plays the character so well. She still feels like Laurie Strode 100% as that character should be at all times, in my opinion. Especially at the end when she finally does kind of, you know, wake up 100%, you know, when she has no choice, really, because Michael comes back to get her, and after he's picked everyone else off one by one. Another thing that I love about Halloween 2 is the new characters that are introduced. I love all of them. They're really likable. They're really cool characters. The people I would want to hang out with. They're not, to me, they're not like cardboard cutout characters like you see in some of like the Friday the 13th and stuff like that, or even some of the Elm Streets, or even some of the later Halloween sequels. To me, they're all likable characters. They feel like real people, some people that I would want to hang out with and have fun with. Like, but come on, who wouldn't want to hang out with that guy? He's funny, he's likable, he's charming. Jimmy seems like a really good, down-to-earth kind of guy, you know. Someone that you would want to be friends with, you know. Someone that would watch out for you, watch your back, take care of you, you know. Nurse Jill, Nurse Karen, they all seem like great people, great characters, and real people, they feel like, you know. And Nurse Marion Chambers, you got returning from the original film. She does a great job. She provides a lot of the exposition, and she has that great scene, of course, the revelation that Michael Myers is the brother of Laurie Strode, and that's such a great scene. I know a lot of people have issue with it and have issue with how it affected the rest of the series or what have you, you know, and that's fine. That's people's opinion, you know. My opinion is different. I love that scene. I think it's a great, shocking twist on the events, you know, something that we didn't see in the original Halloween. There were no crazy wild twists like that, but I loved it. I thought it was really cool, really shocking, and really dramatic the way the scene plays out. You know, she's Nurse Marion talks about the file that was sealed from the courts, you know, and Dr. Loomis is like, what file? I've seen everything, you know. And of course Loomis goes on to say that great line about Halloween isn't goblins, ghosts, or witches. It's the unconscious mind. I love that. But yeah, I love that whole scene, and you know, of course, that draws Loomis to go back to the hospital to take care of business with Michael Myers, you know, and try to stop him and put an end to the masked madman's follies forever, you know. And of course they have that epic showdown in the hospital at the end. It's just amazing, you know. And another thing about Halloween 2 that makes this film work so well is Dick Warlock as Michael Myers. He remains terrifying as he was in the original. But in this film, we see a lot more of him, you know. So for him to still not lose any of that creep factor is amazing, and that's all due to Dick Warlock's performance. And he's the only one that plays Michael in the entire film. That's all Dick Warlock. All the stunts, every scene of Michael Myers is played by Dick Warlock and no one else. And I love that about it, you know. He didn't need stunt people. He didn't need different people to do different scenes. It was all him, you know. And he does a phenomenal job. I think he feels even more evil, even more pissed off. And he just seemed like almost otherworldly, like supernatural, you know. And we see his incredible strength in that scene when he uses the scalpel and stabs Nurse Jill and raises her up with one hand. And that's such a classic, iconic scene when her, you know, her shoes drop, and, you know, it's just amazing. And another case in point is the kill scenes. The kill scenes are improved on in the sequel, I feel. I feel like the kills in the original were not really why the film works so well. You know, there's so many other aspects of why the original film works so well. I don't think really the kills is one of them. Yeah, they were fine, they served a purpose, they were cool and all, but I feel like the kill scenes in Halloween 2 are the best in the entire series, and so iconic, you know. And that's one of the things that separates Halloween 2 from the original, is we see the blood this time. We see the effects of what Michael is doing, you know, right in your face, and I love that. Again, one of the things that separates it. That's why I feel Halloween 2 stands on its own merits, you know. It's not just a great sequel to Halloween, the original classic from 1978. It's a great horror film on its own, even though it does follow the events of the original very well, I might add. Yeah, and there's so many awesome kill scenes, of course, my favorite being the hot tub kill with Nurse Karen, you know, the scolding, boiling hot water in the hot tub when he dunks her head in there, you know. It's just classic, and you see her face melt, and, you know, the flesh is hanging off her face and off her cheeks, and, you know, it's just awesome, and it's terrifying, and the gore effects and the makeup job is just phenomenal, you know. Yeah, I love that you get a little more of that slasher essence too in Halloween 2. That's another thing that separates it from the original. This is much more of a slasher film, and I love slasher movies, so and this is Halloween 2 is a phenomenal slasher movie, you know. It's got all the elements of the classic 80s slashers, but being so faithful to the original film, with the great characters, the great acting, you know, and the great kills and blood and gore. It just has everything you would want in a horror sequel. That's why I really don't understand some of the negativity out there on Halloween 2. To me, it just does everything right, you know. It's just awesome. It's scary as hell. And another thing I will mention is the score. I feel the score on Halloween 2 is even better than the original. I know that's saying a lot, but to me it's just creepy, you know. It just sounds awesome, you know. And you can crank it on your stereo. I have the soundtrack to Halloween 2, and I just crank it. You can't really crank the original soundtrack that much. It's still awesome, but I feel like the sound quality in Halloween 2 is better because you have that awesome, loud church organ. It just sounds sick. I love it. It sounds so gothic, and it's just more intense than the original to me. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not trying to tear down the original by any means. It's amazing, and it set the standard for music and horror movies, you know, absolutely. I just feel like they did it a little bit better. They took what worked so well with the original and amped it up and made it even better. Just like there are a couple of scenes that they kind of take a little from the original, and that being the death of Nurse Alice, I believe her name is. Yeah. Was it Alice? Oh, I can't remember her name, but anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The syringe kill. That scene where you see Michael's mask slowly emerge from the darkness, and it just looks so awesome, and then you see him plunge the syringe right into her temple. Amazing stuff, you know, it's sick, and it's morbid, but it's so beautifully shot. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again, I would compare the death scenes in Psycho to something like Psycho, the original Psycho. That's how good they are. That's how well filmed the death scenes are. And I really respect that, and I really appreciate that. And again, so that's just another reason why I love Halloween 2 so much. Yeah, all the things that Halloween 2 has that the original doesn't have, you know. And it justifies the reason for a sequel. Now, they could say all night long that they didn't plan for a sequel to Halloween 2. That's what John Carpenter says. But me, anytime... I remember when I first watched the original Halloween, and you see that ending, the way it ends, and I think in the back of my mind, what happens now, you know? What's Michael gonna do now? That's why I'm so happy that they made a Halloween 2, and the way they made it was just pitch perfect. The way they followed it up directly after, on the same night as the original Halloween, and I just love that, and I think it works so well. And there's so many, and that opening camera shot where you see from the perspective of Michael is, you know, again, paying homage to the original, you know, the way it's filmed from Michael's perspective, and you see him walking through the alley and walking around the neighborhood, you know. You know he just got up from the events of what happened, and they show that little, you know, part from the ending of Halloween right at the beginning, and I will say that is one kind of negative thing. The way they kind of reshot that scene was a little, wasn't quite perfect, but, you know, we're not here to talk about the negative aspects of Halloween 2. I know there are a few flaws, but I'm here to talk about why this film is so great. I'm not going to tear it down whatsoever, because this movie is amazing. I think it's a 4-star classic in its own right. And I will say, I think Rick Rosenthal did a fantastic job taking over from John Carpenter. He does a great job, and he did keep a lot of the suspense. There are some great suspenseful scenes, and I'm going to point out one, and that is when, after Michael finally catches up with Laurie, and he's chasing her through the hall, and he chases her down to the basement of the hospital, and from that scene on, when you see Dick Warlock walking down the stairs, and you hear the music pumping, it's so intense. And there's the scene when he chases her into the elevator, and you see the elevator has that cool, like, red background, and you see this red light shining off Michael's mask, and it looks awesome. You see Michael stepping on glass, and then you see the close-up of that, his feet stepping on the glass, and the music pumping. It's just so intense. It's so suspenseful. It's amazing. I freaking love that scene. That scene is brilliant. And you got to give Rick Rosenthal all the credit for that, as well as Dick Warlock, of course. He's so effective as Michael Myers. Yeah, Dick Warlock is my favorite Michael Myers in the entire series. I think he's just terrifying, and so intense, so evil, so sadistic, and almost otherworldly. So yeah. Mwah. beautiful. I love your portrayal as Michael, and you're my favorite Dick Warlock. You are